In the military unit, see, I was never meant to be a remote viewer. General Stubblebine brought me in to do PK on computers because of the big event that got me there in the first place. And oh, don't you love computers? There you go.
How many computers did you blow up?
Hmm?
How many computers did you blow up at that big event?
Close to, I think it was $50 million worth of computers to the taxpayers' money, you know. But anyway, after Bert came in and he basically brought me in and introduced me to the unit and all, and said, man, have I got real plans for this guy. And then he left and went back downtown to DC. And Brian Busby called me into the office, had me close the door and sit down, and I mean, read me the riot act. He said, we have daily constant fear of the National Enquirer coming up here with their cameras and all that to get all the crazy psychics that work for the government. And he said, under no circumstances will the government ever be guilty of doing anything that could ever be construed as mind control. And any form of active mental work will be construed as mind control. And he said, we don't do that here, and you will not do it here. And he said, what's more, if you do it on your own, you'll go to jail. And I mean, that was the threat the entire time we were there. We never did active mental work of any kind, remote influencing, PK even. No PK, no remote influencing, no nothing. The ban on active mental work was in force from the day I got there, from before the day I got there until after the day I left and beyond. So any mental work, RI, and so forth, I did and developed on my own. So I wanted to clear that up because a lot of people think we sat up there controlling your minds, you know, and it's just not true. We never did that. Plus, we had Presidential Order 12333, which says you will not spy on Americans without, you know, the consent of Congress. And so, you know, when we say it would take an act of Congress to get us to spy on an American, that's true. It really is true. It would take an act of Congress to task us to spy on an American. And there was a huge, big, thick book called the Oversight Book that very, in great detail, outlined who we could spy on in what cases, and you know, if they were an American citizen. This, if you want to look it up, this was originated by President Kennedy as Presidential Order 11905, if you want to look that up anywhere. Most people don't. But anyway, quite by accident one day, I was working a session, the Inga Swann process, and you know, the little light went click, and I thought, that could lead to remote viewing being a two-way street, you know, not just collection of information coming in. And I got to a certain point in stage 4, and it dawned on me, that's an exit out of this process to let me go there and do things. And so I started developing it, and on my own, and not at work. Started developing it at home. So I need to let you know that this is not the military stuff, okay? We never did active mental work officially. And what you see here is not part of the Ingo structure. However, it does plug right straight into the Ingo structure. You know, I've always said that we made thousands of improvements on the Ingo structure, and every time we did, it went down, and the score went down and down and down. That's true for those things that we tried to replace the Ingo structure. Those things which plugged into the Ingo structure tended to make the score go up and up and up. If we stayed in structure and stayed with the Ingo theory and terminology and the protocols and all that, it tended to enhance. And so we did make some improvements. This, questionably, might be considered one of those improvements because it plugs into the Ingo structure. As we go through this, I gave a talk last year on controlled remote influencing, and didn't come back. And what I gave was the theory. Everybody came thinking, oh, we're going to learn how to do this. No, I gave you the theory. Okay, when we start off this morning, I'm going to go over the theory because there are a lot of people who weren't there. I'm going to go over it very quickly, and I'm going to lead you into that. Then, I would like to put you all to work doing it. In order to do that, I'm going to ask for a guinea pig, one person who will not be in the room, well, actually two people who will not be in the room to do this, and within limits, within safe limits, we are going to have someone go into another room, and this group will try to raise their body temperature and lower their body temperature, raise their blood pressure and lower their blood pressure. Because of that, if there's someone with heart problems or blood pressure problems, don't volunteer, okay? Plus, I have been cautioned over and over that we would need you to sign something, okay, so we don't all get sued. And so if we have a volunteer to do that, we can try a little experiment. I don't mean, you know, burn the person to a crisp by raising their temperature or come back and they're sitting there a block of ice. I mean 1 or 2 degrees of temperature, maybe that's it. But show you how to do it, and then as a group, have you do it. Yeah.
How's that going to
We got a volunteer.
How is that going to be measured to make it objective? Or is it just going to be
I brought,
the person who
no,
got the equipment?
you know me and subjective, yeah. No, I brought blood pressure equipment, I brought thermometer, the whole thing, okay?
You have to bend over. We don't charge for these extra benefits.
Okay, so let's wheel through this through this theory, okay? Now, this is controlled remote viewing theory. It's not influencing. Controlled remote viewing theory, some of the base theory behind controlled remote viewing. In controlled remote viewing, you have the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the great unknown. I've explained this to many people over this weekend. CRV deals with this area in here. It does not deal with this area here. Okay? Your subconscious mind knows how to dip into the great unknown and get information. If you think this is angels or spirit guides and all that, hey, I don't care what you think. The fact is, what I think is that I don't care, you know. All I want to do is find the missing kid, and the theory behind all this and the cosmology behind what God does for a living, I don't care. I just want to find the missing kid. I'm very applications oriented. Okay, so you have the conscious and the subconscious mind, but you may notice there's a slight gap in there. And so the reason is because right in between those two is a thing called the limen. Anybody ever hear this word before? Yep, last year at conference. And you've all heard the word before. Anything down here is subliminal. Anything up there is supraliminal. Okay? And so that barrier between awareness and unawareness is the is called the limen. Bill and Dave and many other people and I have an ongoing argument, none of which will ever be solved. But I say that there are conscious things that we're not aware of, and unconscious things that we are aware of. I mean, subconscious things that we are aware of, and that awareness and unawareness is different from conscious and subconscious. They also tend to go by some crazy expert named Freud or something like that, and they call this the unconscious. It's my firm conviction that no part of the mind is unconscious. It's all conscious at its own level of its own job. Anyway, that's why I never use the word unconscious. Personal theory. Okay. In order to get any information across that limen from the conscious to the subconscious, in remote viewing, in controlled remote viewing, you have to go around that limen. And so you use the body. And in very real terms, controlled remote viewing is a martial art. How do you start out remote viewing? Ideograms. Ta-ta, 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 over and over and over and over. You know, hours on end spending doing these ideogram drills. Much like the little kids in their white belt and their white suit out there going, ha, ha, you know, in the karate studio. It is a martial art. And you contact the subconscious mind through the body, through physical motions, ideograms. The subconscious mind sends information back not to your conscious mind, but to your sense organs. You smell things, you feel a texture, you get sensories. Your conscious mind says, oh, that smells sweet, that feels rough. Okay? And so the subconscious mind uses the body to talk back to you. Okay. To get information from someone else's mind, CRV theory, the target person also has a subconscious which is in contact with the great unknown, the pool of knowledge or whatever. Therefore, if I want to send a question to that person's subconscious mind, I can't just zap it across, okay? I have to send it from my conscious through the body to my subconscious mind, at which time it will go over to his subconscious mind and come back with the answer. This is the theory behind controlled remote viewing. Very simple theory. However, you may notice a limitation here. See where it got its information? From the target person's subconscious, not from their conscious mind. If you task a remote viewer with the question of what is that person thinking, the remote viewer will come back and tell what they're thinking on a subconscious level. They will not come back with the exact word, oh, thank you, with the exact words and phrases that that person is thinking. at the top of their brain, and so you deal with the target person's subconscious mind, and that's the type of information you get. When we were doing Saddam Hussein on a daily basis to get his plans and intentions for the next day, that's exactly what we got. His plans and intentions. How many times do you plan and intend to do something and then you never carry through with it? Okay? We got his plans and intentions. Is he going to do it? That was a whole totally different tasking altogether. Okay. From your subconscious, you bring the information back to your conscious mind through the body. Okay. To put information into someone else's mind, you've got the same situation here. But now you're trying to get something into that person's conscious mind, and the problem is they have a lemon too. Okay. Now then, you not only have the problem of crossing your own lemon, you also have the problem of getting something from subliminal to supraliminal on the far end, and you think getting it across to your mind is hard. Getting it across to their mind is virtually impossible. And so, generally, when you try getting something across to their conscious mind, it stops right there. And you give suggestions to that person's subconscious mind. It may take months before they will ever act on it, and you may have to give months worth of repeated suggestions over and over and over and over. However, what if they also have a body? Well, most of them do. Okay. That body is also in contact with their subconscious. Therefore, if I want to suggest to someone that they don't like ice cream, okay, would I suggest to them in words, you don't like ice cream, you don't like ice cream, you don't like ice cream, you don't like ice cream? It's going to fall on a deaf mind, okay? It's going to fall on the subconscious, and their subconscious, which is accustomed to being in charge of their life, is going to say, like hell I don't, like hell I don't. I love ice cream, I love ice cream. And just like Bill was saying, you're going to meet resistance, okay? The more you push, the more it's going to resist. And this is one of the reasons why much remote influencing just is not effective, because we try to influence their conscious mind. Now, how do you influence their subconscious? You give it something that the subconscious deals with, gestalts, feelings, emotions, and so forth. Where do we want those emotions and feelings to wind up? We want it to wind up in their body, okay? Because if it winds up in their body and we send across an image of ice cream, we get their subconscious mind interested. Ice cream, like Homer Simpson, donuts, and you get them interested in that. But at the same time, you send along with it terrible nausea, okay? On a subconscious level, they will start associating the desire for ice cream with the physical response of nausea. Pretty soon, they stop eating ice cream, which is what we wanted in the first place, okay? So do you see the concept involved here? Okay.
Excuse me.
Yes.
You use the word nausea. Could it also be a visual thing? Could you visualize
Sure.
something like peeing on the ice cream to make them desire?
Okay, the question was, can you visualize something like peeing on the ice cream? Okay. If I hand you ice cream that somebody has peed on, what's going to be your physical response? The physical response is what you try to send across. I'm not eating that, you know. And so it's the physical response. You cannot get something into their conscious mind, but it's very easy to send something across that you can get into their body mind, okay? Dangers of remote influencing. I want to put this right up front. You can get sucked into the other person's feelings, emotions, life paradigms, morality, moods, outlook on life, their habits, and so on. This is a real danger. Okay? Because all of a sudden you do this remote influencing thing to help a person stop eating ice cream and therefore lose weight or whatever. And as a result, you start robbing filling stations maybe, you know, who knows what. And you don't know why. It's because by making that contact, do you really, there's one of these name tags that says, do you really think that you can remote view any site without affecting it? Let's turn that around. Do you really think you can affect any site without viewing it? In other words, without getting stuff back? Can't be done, okay? This is a real danger. You have to watch out for this. You can pick up personality traits which continue after the session ends. You must detox after each session in which you access another person. I was hoping Prue was going to be here. You know, yesterday she said, what is it, unattach or detach or something at the end of the session? Unblend, that's it. She has realized the need to get away from that person. Okay, now she says unblend and that's it. In controlled remote influencing, what we do is we start the detoxification process and we go back up the session. Every single command, every single perception we've gotten, everything, you go back up one at a time and you say, is that the target person or is that me? Better yet, is that the target person or is that the me before I started this session? Okay? And you work your way up and you do that separation. Every single perception you had, 100 pages long, listen, sit there and do that 100 pages, okay? If not, there's no telling who will go home to your family that night. Yeah.
And did you have a lot of evidence of that in the early stages of the remote viewing?
Afraid so. Yeah.
And this idea of detoxing works?
Yes. Oh, she said, did we have a lot of evidence of that? Probably the strongest one for me. I was headed home one day. I live 70 miles from work. And I was headed home going past Laurel, Maryland, down Highway 301. And it was, you know, they had changed the time over to daylight savings. And beautiful day. And I was driving along thinking of what all I was going to be able to get done that evening. It was a Friday evening, and so, you know, all the honeydews and everything I was going to be able to get done. And I needed to, you know, wash the car, mow the lawn, kill my wife, and do some other stuff, too. And I thought, wait a minute, what was that? And I went down the list, and sure enough, there it was. I was going to kill my wife. And I realized I was going to do it. I really was. I had no idea of this, but I was going to go home and kill Linda. And I pulled over beside the road. This is before we had detoxification. Pulled over beside the road and outside of Laurel, Maryland there, and just kept walking around the truck. I wasn't about to go home because I knew I was going to do it. And, I was going to go kill my wife that evening.
Did you do what with her?
Kill her, yeah. And anyway, I worked out this detoxification process and finally got rid of that. what I had to get rid of was the person that I had been doing plans and intentions on that day. There had been something bothering me all the way through the entire session, getting his political plans and intentions. It was a political leader, and it had bothered me all the way through the session. There was something I wasn't getting. Well, I had gotten it, just on a lower level, and came back to work on Monday, and there were the newspapers. His wife had been murdered under strange circumstances, and they were out hunting around the countryside for all the usual suspects and all that, you know, to put somebody in prison. He had killed her, and I was still attached to him. I had picked up this thing and not even known it. And if I hadn't been planning that, you know, this is a very dangerous thing. It can.
Remote viewing rather than remote influencing.
That's right, I was. And in remote viewing, I had picked it up and not known it. Okay. There are 4 commandments. Influencing others, 4 commandments. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Really new creative idea there. Do not do unto others as you would not have others do unto you, okay? Do not mentally join with somebody you want to heal. You could get sick. Now, I had said something about that at the meeting the other night, and it had already been misconstrued. I had said, you heal somebody of cancer, if you get too close and join too much, you can wind up with cancer. And I heard last night somebody say, Lynn said you could wind up with their cancer. It's not what I said. You don't catch their cancer, but you set yourself up physically to start cancer within yourself because you have taken on that part of them if you don't detox. Okay, so I didn't say you catch their disease. I said you set yourself up to be a diseased person. Okay? Do not mentally join with somebody you want to heal. You can attach to them, you can access them, but do not join with them. Okay? Do not join with somebody you want to hurt, because you're going to hurt yourself. Okay? What goes around does come around. Okay? So don't mentally join with that person. You can access them, and you can put things into their mind where they will hurt themselves, but then get out. Okay? Get out and stay out, and don't get involved in the process of hurting. Let them hurt themselves like you wanted, but stay away from it from then on. Don't join with somebody you're going to hurt, because you're going to hurt yourself.
That violates the first 2.
Huh?
Hurting somebody violates the first 2 commandments.
That's true. However,
So that one's not necessary. What was the question?
well, that one, I'm afraid, is sometimes necessary. Sometimes you have to take somebody out in order to save other people.
I don't.
And you don't. That's good. I'm glad.
Terrorist.
Huh?
Terrorist.
Okay. Would you kill a terrorist to prevent a plane load of people from going into the side of a building?
Right.
It's a moral question. Would you, if you feel this way, would you risk your soul and kill a person to keep him from killing 3,000 others?
That's what you're talking
That's a moral issue you have to decide, yeah. But,
If you wouldn't, I don't want to be on a plane with you.
yeah. Anyway, those are the 4 commandments of remote influencing. Okay. One of the first mistakes that most people make in remote influencing is the transmission of the message, okay? They want to say, quieten down, quieten down, quieten down. And so what do? They access the person, if you're working Prue's consciousness circle thing, I don't know the terminology right. You touch that conscious thought and you say, calm down, quiet, 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 okay? Here's this person off in the distance, and you know what they hear? Quiet! Okay? You seen that commercial for the phones where the hypnotist is saying, "You are sleepy!" The guy, yeah. Okay, why not transmit that? Without telling them to be quiet, you have transmitted something where they'll say, "Ooh," and get quiet. Okay? What Bill started this whole conference with, talking about the Ericksonian method. You don't attack. You draw that person into what you want to do. You don't give commands to another person's mind. All right? You entice that other person's mind. Simple as that. Okay. Transmitting detailed messages. By the same token, buy the house. Do I want them to buy the house? Now this is for CRVers. By getting a physical response that I'm very accustomed to because I've practiced hundreds of hours of ideogram drills, I can put house, okay, man-made, house, into my subconscious and send it across to them, and they'll start thinking about the house. This is an attractor. You send their mind an attractor. And then, do I want them to buy the house? Yes. What do I send them? The word yes? Buy the house, buy the house, buy the house. No. I think house, and I draw the ideogram for house and send it across, and then, okay? Funny, pleasant, neat. You're really neat, okay? And so I send something across that has an emotion to it, that has an attractor to it. I send across house and then something neat. All right?
Yeah.
No, I don't want them to buy that house. I want the house. Don't you buy the house. Because if you do, man, you're going to be hanging high, okay? And I send the emotion of this situation across. House, and so on. You saw how Prue yesterday kept doing the line and sending it over and over. That is exactly what you do. This process, house, and send the emotion. You do it, you sit there, do it hundreds of times. Spend an hour, okay? That hour means that they won't buy the house and you can buy it yourself. Is it worth the hour? Sure, spend an hour, okay? Any questions on this? Okay.
When you say send the emotion, do you actually pack this with an emotion of your own?
Oh yeah.
Just send the face.
You feel the mule situation, okay? You send
Are
it.
you talking about a state of mind?
Yes. State of mind. And imagery too, but mainly state of mind. You feel that mule's situation. Yeah.
Be the mule.
Yeah, be the mule. Yeah.
As we're doing ideograms,
Huh?
does ideogram stand for?
The ideogram in this case is man-made, stands for house. You want to attract their thoughts on a subconscious level to the target you're talking about, house. You send that across. Then you pack it with an emotion. What happens? You try to pack it with an emotion that will have a physical aspect to it so that it goes to their subconscious, and then they feel pleasure or they get this lost feeling in their body. Once that happens, they start thinking about the house and they say, oh man, I just feeling uncomfortable, feeling lost. Okay, you do that 100 times, they're not going to buy that house. All right?
Are you
Yes.
packing that emotion as you make the ideogram?
I pack it separately. You can pack it at the same time, but I pack it separately myself. I think it's personal preference. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give a negative example here. All right, You're vying for a job position, but there is another person in the company competing with you who frequently drops in on the boss with information, gifts, and I think the term is, you know, and so you've got this situation where you really want that job, and you know you'd be better at it. And this other guy is really going for this thing, you know. Okay. You do what you can to impress your boss with your work, but you also realize that you're gonna also have to influence your boss to dislike that other person, dislike what they're doing, dislike everything about them, so that that other person does not get the new job position, okay? Like I said, this is a negative. This is a negative. If you think that you cannot use remote influencing for bad, the word naive comes to mind here. You can use, this is a tool. Good or bad is how you use it, and you can use it both ways. Okay. We've got this situation. Here's you, there's the boss. Here's that great connector, the great unknown there, all right? Do a session and access the boss lightly, okay? Just do a normal session. Start describing the boss. Describe his office, describe, you know, find out what mood he's in today and all. Don't do anything deep, don't do anything influencing or anything like that. Just establish the contact. Then, devise, in this case, because I'm using a negative one, devise an unpleasant physical situation. Nerves, antsiness, okay? Let's use that one. Just the building is the wrong temperature, and it's just, you know, I just having one of those days when everything feels wrong, okay? Now, here's the second mistake most people make when they're trying to remote influence. They miss this step. Move to the proper time of influencing. They say, you know, okay, boss, think of the other guy, now feel antsy. Don't do that. In CRV, I don't know how it is in the other methodologies. In CRV, there is no rule in CRV that doesn't treat time and space exactly the same. There is no difference between moving back 10 feet and moving back 10 years. Exactly the same, okay, or forward or whatever. Therefore, what do you do in this case? You move to the time when that guy is in there kissing up. All right? Now, antsy, I don't like that. Okay, you do another session the next day, an hour later, or whatever. You access the boss lightly. You move to the time when that person is there in his office. Antsy, you know, wrong temperature, wrong things, just nervous, so on. Okay, you see what you're doing? You're getting him to just want to get that guy out of the office. Okay, this higher job position, the boss is going to have to work with him on a daily basis. He's not going to get the job, right? You're going to get it. You're the only other one. Therefore, you take this, you send the mental effect to your subconscious. That mental effect goes across the great unknown to their subconscious, and you make it something that will affect their body, physically affect their body, okay? It doesn't have to be getting sick or anything like that. It's usually the milder things that we don't notice that have the most effect, okay?
I have an ethical problem
So do I.
with this.
I said I was going to use a negative example. I have an ethical problem with this too, really big one. But I'm showing you a strong example, okay?
But ass kissing is also a moral problem.
What is?
Huh?
Ass kissing is also a problem for
Well,
you, right?
okay.
He's using-
Kissing up to the boss is also a moral problem, he says. Okay? All right. The same pattern holds true for more positive situations, which I was really thinking I should have given you instead, but I wanted to show you. This can be used in any way. All right. Making the boss like you, healing someone. Okay, making the boss like you instead of disliking the other guy. I could have done the same thing. Move to the time when I'm in with the boss and give him this warm, fuzzy feeling, okay?
I think that's really important, though.
It is.
It's really not any different.
It's not any different.
And the other one feels ethically wrong.
It does to me.
Doing it this way is really no difference.
That's right. It's not.
What you're doing
You're
is,
still controlling the guy's mind. Yeah,
and you're taking advantage of a skill you have
that's right.
to better yourself compared to somebody else.
To manipulate.
Yeah.
Well,
Of course,
see,
the other guy's taking care of his.
depending on the words you
I know.
use, it
That's
sounds
right.
unethical,
Right.
but the fact is you're using a
The same
skill
thing.
that the other fellow doesn't have.
That's
Don't we
right.
do that all the time? Is
Well,
that life?
The other guy may
In a
be
way.
the other guy may be using a skill that he has and you don't. You know, and so
I think the question here is that it's subconsciously driven rather than just overtly.
that's right.
It's a
This is
very
the whole,
complicated
the same question that deals with the use of subliminals deals with this. Is it fair to actually affect another person's mind without their conscious permission or awareness? I think ethically the answer is no. I also have people coming to me all the time saying, how do you remote influence? How do you remote influence? You know, oh, I would never do anything bad. You just asked me about remote influencing, which I think is morally unfair.
What about
Okay.
people who can really read body language? Or are very,
It's the same thing.
intuitive? Yeah, is that unethical?
How about,
The
okay, how about the person who has a 200 IQ competing with the person who has a 100 IQ? Is that fair? Are you going to, no, it's not fair, but are you going to do it? Absolutely, yeah.
I don't really see the difference between this and prayer. You know, in prayer you pray to someone,
Hey.
you do something else. And in this,
Absolutely.
you don't even have to intercede.
Her comment was there's no difference between, the fairness of using it is no difference between this and prayer.
Well,
What
there's-
does every football team do when they first, you know, head out for the field? You got both football teams. Lord, help us win.
Yeah.
Yeah?
But you have two kinds of prayer. I mean, you know, you have. I mean, I'm going back now to ancient Israel in the early periods of spiritualism. You know, you can pray for somebody to get well, or you can pray for somebody to drop dead.
Yep.
So, imprecatory prayers are asking God to curse somebody. But to me, the ethical element in this is what is your intention in relation to the person to do something good for him,
Mm-hmm.
or at least not do anything bad to him.
Okay.
So to me, ethics is driven by only one principle,
Yeah.
and that is the principle of what it does to another person.
Okay.
So,
However, let me explain one thing. I'm not here to teach ethics. People have asked me, how do you do remote influencing? That's all I'm here to do. The ethical problems, I'm not getting involved in your ethics. People ask me, how do you do this? I'm showing you how to do it. What you do with it,
right.
you know, that gives me a moral problem and has always given me a moral problem of how ethical it is for me to teach people how to do this when I don't know those people. Okay.
Teach us how to drive a car or how to shoot a gun.
And teach you how to drive a car, shoot a gun. Yeah. Okay. Healing someone, same thing, same principles. And we'll go over this again 2 or 3 times before we finish this. Helping someone be happier, helping someone have more patience, self-discipline, honesty, and so on. Helping someone work out problems, lifting moods and spirit, and so on and so on and so on. Okay. Along the same line, I got a call one night from a Japanese guy in up in New York, and he said that his partner was dying of AIDS and was in the final stages and was in a coma. And he said, I'm not asking you to heal my partner. He said, I'm only asking you to find out whether or not he would want us to pull the plug and just let him die tonight. And so I said, okay, well, after the house gets quiet and everybody's in bed, I'll do the session and call me back in the morning. And so I did the session. I accessed the person mentally and found out that he was in tremendous pain. Even in the coma, he was in tremendous pain. And so worked with him to ease the pain. And then basically I said, you know, what do you want done? He said, absolutely, pull the plug. I don't want to do this anymore. And so I said, okay, you know, do you have anything that you'd like to get in order, or any messages you would like to send to your parents or anything? And he said, yes, tell my parents that I have not disgraced them. That was his one message. And so I came back out of the session. Well, I got a call first thing the next morning, and it was the guy who had originally called me. And he said, my partner woke up from his coma and said that an angel had come to him during the night, had stopped his pain, had asked him if he wanted to go ahead and die, and had helped him get things in order. And so he's awake now, but the experience has made him to where this is the person I fell in love with, and he's happy, and now then he wants to spend what little time he has left in life doing something good. So don't bother doing the session. And I said, okay, then I won't bother doing the session, and you know, if I can ever help, let me know. And hung up. The good had been done, and so you know, these things are possible. And once you learn the CRV process, the CRI process and all that, it can be done with some very great detail. You can make contact and do some very intricate level stuff. Okay. Okay. Decide what you want to impress on the other person. Okay? I mean, these are basic requirements. They're simple logic. But a lot of people say, okay, I'm going to access him, and then when they get there, they say, okay, now what do I do? Oh yeah, I want to do, you know. No, you plan your work and then work your plan. This is, you know, not a new concept. Okay. Remember one thing in this step. You can't bribe a dog with $1. Dog's barking all night. You go out and say, here's $1 if you'll shut up. He may bite you, but he's not going to stop barking, okay? You want a person to do something. Don't go with what you think is enticing to them. Go with what they think is enticing. In other words, feel for the other person. See things from their point of view. You want the boss to hire you. Convince him that you're the better choice. Okay? Make him see you as the better choice. Okay. Because that's really what he wants. Okay. You must set up communications with the other person's subconscious mind. Move to the appropriate time. This is one of the steps that most people forget. Now, there is a thing called a well-formed question to a psychic. This is not CRV. If you say to a psychic, my aunt died under mysterious circumstances, tell me what happened to her. The psychic will do their job, and they'll come back and give you the answer. If they're a good psychic, they'll give you the right answer and good information and all that. However, this is linguistics, okay? Linguistics 101. You say to that psychic instead, my aunt died under mysterious circumstances. Move to the day she died and tell me what you're seeing, present tense, okay? The person's conscious mind doesn't work as well in past and future as it works in the present. Therefore, you tell the subconscious, move to the time of her death, and then you say to the conscious mind, now tell me what you're seeing now. I guarantee you, no matter what psychic it is, no matter what method they use, crystal ball, palm reading, I don't care what it is, you'll get better information faster and more accurate simply with that wordage, with that verbiage, those linguistics. You task them to work conscious mind, present time. So you say, you don't say, what will the stock market be tomorrow? You say, move to tomorrow afternoon. No, what do you see the stock market saying? Okay? Move to the time, then work present tense. It works for every psychic method known. Just that simple linguistics will help you get better accuracy and faster. Okay. You do not influence using conscious thoughts. Translate what you want done into sensories, concepts, emotions, and so on, which your subconscious mind will be able to handle, and then their subconscious mind will be able to handle it too. Now, how do you translate? Okay? Use your body to transfer the message from your conscious to your subconscious mind. Remember what Prue was doing? That, and doing it over and over. It's exactly what you do. All right? Are you transmitting the message to that person? No. By doing the physical response, you're transmitting it to your own subconscious, and your own subconscious takes care of the transmission. Okay? But you're just trying to get it into the great unknown down there by giving it to your subconscious. Then your subconscious knows what to do with it, how to get it to the right place. Okay? Along this line, I'll give you the method that I use for curing the common cold. And I've had this work enough times that I've come to depend on it. Mentally see the person filled with the popping paper, the popping plastic, and then repeatedly, okay? Oh, good, thank you. One of the things I do is I go and I draw the little bubbles.
What plastic paper, what are you talking about?
The packing paper where that has the bubbles that you can pop, okay? And then, one by one, you do a physical activity to get across to your own subconscious mind what you want. One by one, I go pop, erase, pop, erase. I liken this to the viruses, to the viral bodies that are in that person's. And then, once you've done a whole page of these, do another page, okay? You might want to do these in pencil so you can turn around and erase it once it's popped. But you do that physical activity exactly the same as Prue was showing you with the put it in, put it in. You do that physical response over and over and over.
Does it work with cancer too?
I think it does. I have never once had any success at healing cancer. I don't know why. I've done some other things and had really good success. Cancer, I don't know if it's some kind of internal fear that I have, but I've never had any success with it.
There's a book that was put out some 20 years ago by Symington and Symington.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I forgot the name of the title.
It also likes stories. Don't be afraid to use metaphors and allegories extensively. Okay? This is once you make contact with that mind, get them involved in a story. Translate what you want into a parable, into a moral story or something like that. It also responds strongly to emotions. You can pack emotional content into what you're doing. When you do that ideogram, let's say of the house, man, feel that house and feel if you're trying to get them to not want the house, man, feel that house crumbling and falling and everything as you do that ideogram. You want them to buy the house, man, feel the beauty and the comfort of that house as you do the ideogram. Michael?
I have a question.
understood about the emotions and like transmit, like when you say transmit a color or other basic sensation to other person, do you like imagine like your own body, your own eyes, seeing that color, for example, right?
Yeah, you experience it. Yeah.
You experience it, and so your body transmits it to your subconsciousness, and that goes across.
Right, and the subconscious takes care of sending it. Right.
But the part of the
You're trying to get it across to your subconscious.
Yes.
Okay.
But the part of the limbic system, when you're talking about the stories and metaphors, didn't you say that you cannot transmit words and things like that?
I'll show you. I'll show you in a minute. Okay. That's a few slides down. I'll show you how to do that. Good question though. Okay. Don't forget about ideograms. For those of you who have just taken the lower levels of controlled remote viewing, stage 6, which is the highest level taught to the public, is almost all ideograms. You have 2-dimensional ideograms, 3-dimensional ideograms, timeline ideograms, charts, maps. You even build 3-dimensional models out of clay, and they are ideograms. Okay. By the way, somebody was talking about a student who was always unsatisfied with their sketches. Do you realize that in a remote viewing session, the sketch you make is how your subconscious sees the target, not how your eyes see it? And so maybe that squiggle, that, you know, that whatever, maybe that's more correct than getting the detailed drawing that your conscious mind is after. And if you let it happen and assume my subconscious gave me the right thing, then you can go feel it like you do any ideogram and get all kinds of information off of it. Okay? You must get physical in order to use the body. You can't sit and imagine your arm going up or something like that. Raise your arm. It's not that hard. Okay, get physical with the body. This is why I tell everybody, when you're doing a remote viewing session, you know, if you're not sitting there in church while the sermon's going on and doing that just to stay awake or something, do it out loud. It gets your chest, your ears, your breathing, everything else involved. CRV is a physical discipline. It's a martial art. Get involved physically and it works better. Okay. Okay. An example. Secret factory. The tasking we had was to find out what went on inside a factory that had been spotted by satellite imagery. Regular viewing and, you know, spy in the sky satellites and all that had left many questions, and it was decided that mental access might be the way to answer them. I was told, so were some of the other viewers. I'm just giving mine because we never shared our results, and so this is the only one I know. I was told to access someone at the factory who could provide the information we wanted. Well, the person I accessed was a person who just happened to be the factory's director. And I accessed him, and I had no success. Listen, this guy was so security-oriented, he would not allow himself to even think secrets. And he was one of those that said, you know, if I know what the answer is, I'll have to cut my head off, or I'll have to kill myself. I don't know why these are coming out of order here, but okay. I accessed him, and when I had no success, I decided, okay, well, I'm going to stick with this guy and find out something about him at least. Well, I found out that he had a son, and that the son was right at that age that was daddy worshiping and all that, and that he had some real problems with the fact that he could not let his son know what he did for a living. And so I pictured his son in the factory. He immediately kind of tensed up over the whole idea of that. Okay, I pictured his son following him around, holding his hand. I made the first suggestion, show it to me, Dad. Okay? Now, one of the things you learn about remote influencing is there will be resistance to that first suggestion. Always will. Even if it's a pleasant thing, there's always going to be resistance to change, and there will be resistance to that first suggestion. Don't fight the resistance. Pushing harder makes it push harder back. Bypass it, okay? So, no, son, you can't. The kid, hey, Dad, what's that? Pointing to a typewriter, which was not classified at all, okay? And so all of a sudden, here was something where he could impress his kid without violating the problems, you know, without violating security. Okay. Yeah, these are, okay. I involve the other person as you begin to experience a story. And so I said, okay, here's this kid finally getting to see what his father was doing. Okay. He showed his son the one thing. I stuck out my chest. I did a physical response. I stuck out my chest, felt pride. Man, Daddy's great. Okay? Grinned. I added a physical aspect to it in response to that picture that I had put into his mind. When he succumbed to that activity, then I gave a reward. Guide the story to your desired influence. The son continued to ask, and the father continued to show. Each time I would provide reward of pride and pleasure into the system. Each time he showed his kid something else. Whenever he resisted, I did nothing. One of the things you've got to learn about the subconscious mind, if you've never raised kids, okay, if you have raised kids, you already know this. One of the things about the subconscious mind is that negative emotions are also attractors. Many kids misbehave in order to get spanked or in order to get fussed at, because that gives them the attention they need, okay? So, when he didn't comply with what I wanted, no response. When he did, I gave a physical response through to my subconscious and so on. All right, now then comes Michael's question. Michael asked, if you can't get words and things across to his conscious mind, then how are you telling him this story? Okay, I was doing this in pictures, but see, I'm not trying to get these pictures across to his conscious mind. At the time I was doing this, I seriously doubt that he was doing any daydreaming at all on the conscious level. All right? We have found that if you put in a metaphor or a story into someone's mind, they will get the gist of it. They'll get the overall moral of the story. They'll get the point, and yet, even if they are consciously involved in it, they will be thinking a different story, which just happens to have the same plot, the same moral, and the same points, okay? The thoughts that you are putting into this, you're putting into your own subconscious, and then it talks to the other subconscious. The other subconscious, if it gets up to the conscious mind, is going to tell a whole different story, and yet you can guide that person's story by guiding your own. Okay, so you have to influence yourself in order to influence the other person.
So this isn't happening in real time necessarily. You're actually accessing almost a virtual copy of that person.
That's right.
And what they would be doing.
That's right. Yeah, and it can happen in the present. The time of influencing, move to the time of influencing, proper time of influence, may be the present moment. So you can do that. Okay. The son continued to ask, and the father kept showing, and I kept giving rewards. Okay. Move the focus of the target. Move the focus to the target person, and turn the process over to them. All right. Here's another point that people miss when they try to influence someone. At some point, you've got to stop influencing them to do whatever you want, and you've got to let them do it. Okay? It's the old thing of the going up to the librarian and saying, I want a copy of War and Peace. Get me a copy of War and Peace. I want War and Peace right now. Get me a copy of War and Peace. I want War and Peace. He's going to stand there until you shut up. Right? Then he'll go get a copy of War and Peace. So at some